Out!
Security
now,
shoved him hard enough that he
And I
nearly
told
fell.
you the soup kitchen is
Out.
3 blocks away.
Now. His shoulder slammed
going
against the
viral.
glass door and a ripple of laughter spread across the marble lobby. I told you I'm here for the board meeting, he said, steadying himself. The receptionist leaned over her desk, voice dripping with sarcasm. And I told you the soup kitchen is 3 blocks away. More laughter. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "This is going viral." Victor Hale, Chief Operations Officer, adjusted his tie and stepped closer. "You people are unbelievable. You walk in here like you own the place." The man's expression didn't change. "I do." The room exploded with mockery. Victor smirked. "What's your name?" "Daniel." "Daniel what?" He paused. "Daniel Hale." Silence hung for half a second. Then someone scoffed. "Sure you are." Victor clapped his hands once. "That's enough. Escort him out before he starts claiming he built this company." As security dragged him toward the exit, a young woman near the elevator stepped forward. "Sir, maybe we should check—" Victor cut her off. "Amara, stay in your lane." She hesitated. Daniel met her eyes and gave the faintest nod. Not angry, not embarrassed, just watching. The doors burst open. He was pushed outside onto the pavement. Inside, laughter resumed. Across the street, a black sedan idled. Daniel straightened his worn jacket and walked calmly toward it. Inside the car, his legal advisor, Marcus Reed, looked tense. "They touched you?" Daniel nodded once. "Recordings?" "Every second." Daniel stared at the glass tower bearing his family name. "Good." He didn't sound hurt. He sounded patient. 2 months earlier, Daniel Hale had stepped down as public CEO of Hale Industries. Officially, it was strategic restructuring. Unofficially, it was suspicion. Expenses were rising without reason. Vendor contracts were inflated. Employee complaints were quietly buried. Daniel could have fired everyone immediately. He owned 62% of the company. But ownership didn't reveal character. Pressure did. So he became invisible. He removed the tailored suits, traded his luxury watch for a scratched one, let his beard grow uneven, walked through the front door as an ordinary applicant claiming to represent a small investor group. The first day, he was ignored. The second day, he was dismissed. The third day, he was humiliated. And today, he was shoved. Back in the lobby, Victor laughed loudly. Imagine the audacity, claiming he's Daniel Hale. The receptionist shook her head. "If that was Daniel Hale, I'm the Queen of England." Amara stayed quiet. Something about the man's composure unsettled her. He hadn't begged, he hadn't shouted. He had observed. Upstairs, the executive board gathered around a long glass table. Victor entered confidently. Minor interruption handled. The CFO, Richard Lawson, glanced up. What interruption? Some street actor claiming he owns the place. Laughter filled the room. Richard waved dismissively. Security exists for a reason. They returned to discussing the upcoming asset liquidation, selling off one of the company's charitable housing projects to a private developer. "It's inefficient," Richard argued, "will triple revenue." "And displace 500 families," someone murmured. Richard shrugged. "Business." Victor leaned back. Daniel would have approved. "Daniel isn't here," Richard said sharply. "That's the point." Downstairs, Amara replayed the incident in her mind. She pulled up the shareholder registry out of curiosity. Her fingers froze. Daniel Hale, majority shareholder. Status, active. She swallowed. Her phone buzzed with a company-wide alert. Emergency board meeting, mandatory attendance. Victor frowned at the notification. What now? Minutes later, the boardroom doors opened again. Marcus Reed walked in first. Behind him came 3 attorneys, and then the doors closed softly as Daniel Hale entered wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. The room fell silent. Victor stood slowly. "What is this?" Daniel took his seat at the head of the table. "My chair," he said calmly. Richard's face drained of color. Daniel? Daniel placed a small device on the table and pressed play. The boardroom screen lit up. Footage filled the wall. The lobby. Victor laughing. Security shoving. The receptionist mocking. Audio crystal clear. Soup kitchen is 3 blocks away. The room felt smaller. Victor tried to speak. Daniel, this... Quiet, Daniel said softly. Another clip played. Financial spreadsheets appeared. Inflated vendor contracts, diverted funds, transfers from the Hale Housing Foundation into private accounts. Richard's hands began to tremble. This is misinterpretation. Is it? Daniel asked calmly, almost curiously. Then explain the offshore account ending in 4721. Silence. Marcus slid documents across the table. Signed, he said evenly, by Mr. Lawson. Richard swallowed hard. Daniel, we can discuss... Daniel leaned forward. I walked through my own lobby for 3 weeks. He looked directly at Victor. 3 weeks. Victor couldn't meet his gaze. I was ignored, mocked, dismissed. Today I was physically removed. He turned to the others, and not one of you asked for verification. Amara sat frozen in the corner, eyes wide. Daniel noticed her. You, he said gently, you tried to speak. Her voice shook. I just thought we should check your name. Daniel nodded. That's called due diligence. Victor snapped defensively. Daniel, this is ridiculous. You can't expect executives to entertain every drifter. Drifter? Victor swallowed. Daniel stood slowly. You failed the simplest test. He let the words hang. Human decency. The room felt suffocating. Richard tried again. We've grown profits by 18%. Daniel cut him off. By stealing from the poor. He pressed another button. Images appeared. Families in Hale housing projects. Children. Elderly residents. This company was built so families like these wouldn't be discarded. He looked around the table. And today, you proved you would discard anyone who didn't look profitable. No one spoke. Security entered, but this time for different reasons. Marcus addressed the room. Mr. Lawson, Mr. Hale, Victor, your access has been revoked. You'll be escorted out pending prosecution. Victor exploded. You can't do this. Daniel met his rage with silence. I built this, Victor shouted. You were absent. Daniel's eyes flashed briefly. I was watching. Victor was escorted out. Richard followed, pale and shaking. The boardroom emptied slowly. Daniel sat back down. Amara remained standing, unsure whether to move. He gestured for her to approach. You believe in procedure, he said. She nodded faintly. Good, he replied. You're now the interim director of compliance. Her mouth fell open. Sir, I'm junior staff. Not anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. Why me? Because you didn't laugh. He turned to the remaining executives. Effective immediately, Hale Industries will undergo complete restructuring. He paused. And this time, character will matter more than titles. If you're still watching, it means you understand something powerful. Never underestimate quiet strength. Stay with this story because what happened next shook the entire city. Daniel wasn't finished, and neither was the truth. News of the emergency board meeting didn't stay inside the building for long. By noon, whispers were crawling through every department. Did you hear Victor got escorted out? No, that's impossible. I saw legal walk in. Amara stood in the compliance office, staring at the new access badge in her hand. Interim Director of Compliance. It still felt unreal. Her phone rang. Amara speaking. Come to the executive floor, Marcus said calmly. Mr. Hale wants you present. Her heart pounded. Yes, sir. Upstairs, tension was thick. Daniel stood by the window, watching employees gather in clusters outside the conference room. Lock the doors, he told Marcus. We're doing this transparently. The doors opened again. Victor pushed past security, face flushed with anger. You can't just humiliate me like this. Daniel didn't turn around. You seemed comfortable humiliating others this morning. Victor scoffed. You orchestrated this entire circus. Daniel faced him. I gave you 3 weeks. That man in the lobby was a lie. That man in the lobby was your test. Victor stepped closer. You think dressing like a beggar proves something? Daniel's voice sharpened. It proved everything. Marcus signaled security again. Victor was removed for the final time. Outside the boardroom, employees fell silent as he passed. Richard Lawson tried a different tactic. He approached Daniel privately. You're making a mistake, Richard said quietly. The market will panic. Daniel looked at him steadily. The market should panic. You'll destroy shareholder confidence. I am the majority shareholder. Richard's jaw tightened. Then at least keep this internal. Daniel shook his head. No. He walked to the center of the boardroom and pressed a button. The internal broadcast system activated. Every screen in Hale Industries flickered to life. Factories, offices, warehouses. Daniel Hale appeared live. Gasps echoed through the building. In the lobby, the receptionist froze. That's him, she whispered. Daniel spoke calmly. Good afternoon. 3 weeks ago, I began an internal review of this company. He paused, letting his face settle into every corner of the organization. During that review, I entered this building dressed as an ordinary applicant. Murmurs spread instantly. Many of you ignored me. Some of you mocked me. Today, I was physically removed from my own lobby. The security guards near the entrance exchanged nervous glances. Daniel continued, This isn't about pride, it's about culture. He signaled to Marcus. Financial documents appeared on every screen. Misallocated funds, fraudulent transfers, unauthorized bonuses. Senior leadership diverted millions from the Hale Housing Foundation. Shocked silence filled offices across the city. In the accounting department, one employee whispered, I knew something was off. Daniel's voice remained steady. Those responsible have been removed and will face legal action. Richard lunged toward Marcus. Turn this off. Security restrained him. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Transparency begins now. He shifted tone slightly. However, this story is not only about corruption. He gestured toward Amara, who stood nervously behind him. This morning, when I was mocked, one employee attempted to verify my identity before judgment. Cameras zoomed in on her stunned face. Her coworkers gasped. Amara Oko is now interim director of compliance. Applause erupted hesitantly in some departments. Daniel continued, Respect will no longer depend on clothing, accent, or perceived status. It will depend on character. He ended the broadcast. Phones exploded. Social media notifications surged. An employee had already uploaded the lobby footage. Within an hour, #HaleExposure began trending. News outlets called non-stop. Sir, Marcus said carefully, we need a press strategy. Daniel nodded. Prepare a conference. 2 hours. Amara looked overwhelmed. Sir, they're going to attack you too. Daniel met her gaze. Good. Meanwhile, Victor sat in his car, fury boiling. He dialed a number. We need to release something, he barked. Say Daniel staged everything. But the footage, the voice on the other end began. Spin it, Victor shouted. Say he's unstable, reckless. Inside Hale Industries, employees gathered in conference rooms, replaying the broadcast. The receptionist who had mocked Daniel earlier felt her stomach twist. I didn't know, she whispered to a coworker. You laughed, the coworker replied bluntly. In the security office, the guard who shoved Daniel paced anxiously. He didn't fight back, he muttered. He just looked at me. Back upstairs, Daniel prepared for the press conference. Are you sure you want to admit you went undercover? Marcus asked. Yes. It exposes vulnerability. It exposes truth. The press room filled quickly. Reporters shouted as Daniel stepped up to the podium. Mr. Hale, did you fake your identity? Is the company collapsing? Were you assaulted? Daniel raised a hand. I disguised myself to evaluate company culture. What I discovered was systemic corruption and arrogance. Why not conduct a standard audit? A reporter asked. Because audits don't measure character. The room quieted. He continued, today's actions were necessary. Hale Industries will not profit at the expense of dignity. Did executives physically remove you? Another reporter pressed. Yes. Cameras flashed wildly. Will you press charges? Daniel paused. Legal consequences will proceed where necessary. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Marcus glanced at his own device and frowned. Sir, Victor just released a statement. Daniel nodded slightly. Read it. Marcus whispered. He claims you're mentally unstable, says stepping down affected your judgment. The room buzzed as reporters checked their feeds. Daniel didn't react emotionally. He stepped closer to the microphone. Character assassination is a common tactic when accountability arrives. The reporters leaned in. I will not respond with insults. I will respond with evidence. He gestured to the large screen behind him. New footage appeared. Victor laughing. Richard signing documents. Clear timestamps. Gasps filled the room. Daniel finished calmly. Hale Industries is entering a new era. Those who value integrity will thrive. Those who don't will not. He stepped away from the podium. Back at the company, employees felt something shifting. Not fear, relief. Amara entered the compliance office and found a line forming outside her door. An accountant spoke first. I tried to report the housing fund discrepancies. No one listened. A procurement officer added, Victor pressured us to inflate contracts. Amara swallowed hard. Document everything. The floodgates opened. Meanwhile, Victor watched the press conference replay on his tablet, fury burning in his eyes. He thinks he's righteous, he muttered. His phone rang again. This is federal compliance, the voice said. We'll be requesting documentation. Victor's face paled. Back in the executive suite, Daniel stood alone briefly. Amara knocked gently. Sir? Yes. Employees are coming forward. He nodded. Good. She hesitated. Why didn't you stop them when they pushed you? Daniel looked at her quietly. Because sometimes people reveal more when they believe you are powerless. She absorbed that. And what if they had hurt you badly? Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. Then they would have revealed even more. Downstairs, the receptionist approached the security guard who shoved Daniel. We could lose our jobs, she whispered. The guard shook his head. He didn't look angry. No, he didn't. He looked disappointed. That word lingered heavier than fear. By evening, federal investigators arrived. Boxes of documents were sealed. Executives' offices were cleared. Victor's access card failed when he tried to re-enter the building. He slammed it against the scanner. Access denied, the system repeated. Across town, news anchors debated Daniel's method. Was it ethical? Was it genius? Public opinion began shifting overwhelmingly in his favor. One clip dominated social media. The moment security shoved him, millions watched, millions reacted. Back in his office, Daniel received a call from the head of the Hale Housing Foundation. Families heard, she said softly. Tell them the project isn't being sold. You're keeping it? Yes. There was silence on the line. Thank you. Daniel ended the call and looked out at the city lights beginning to glow. Marcus entered quietly. Victor has retained legal counsel. He's fighting. Daniel nodded. Let him. And Richard? Already negotiating. Amara returned with a folder thick with testimonies. This is just the first wave, she said. Daniel took the folder. 3 weeks, he muttered, and this is what surfaced. He looked up at her. We're not done. If you think justice feels different when it's earned instead of shouted, stay with this story. The backlash was just beginning, and the real test wasn't in the boardroom. It was in what Daniel chose to do next. The next morning, the lobby was silent. No laughter. No whispers. Employees stood straighter when Daniel walked in, this time in a tailored suit, polished shoes, and calm authority. The same security guard who had shoved him stepped forward nervously. "Mr. Hale, Daniel stopped in front of him. "What's your name?" "Thomas, sir." "Thomas," Daniel repeated. "Why did you push me?" Thomas swallowed. "I was following orders." "Did I threaten anyone?" "No, sir." "Did I shout?" "No." Daniel held his gaze. "Next time, follow principles before orders." Thomas's eyes watered. "Yes, sir." Daniel didn't fire him. He walked past. The receptionist stood behind her desk, pale. "Mr. Hale, I'm sorry." Daniel looked at her for a long moment. "Why?" She hesitated. "Because I judged you." He nodded slightly. "That's a start." He didn't humiliate her. He didn't yell. That unsettled her more than anger would have. Upstairs, the atmosphere was electric. Federal investigators were still reviewing documents. News vans lined the street. Victor had launched a lawsuit claiming wrongful termination and defamation. Richard had turned state witness. But Daniel's attention wasn't on revenge. It was on reform. He called an all-staff town hall. Every employee gathered, physically or virtually. Daniel stood alone on stage. "No scripts," he told Marcus. The room quieted. Daniel began. "I owe you honesty." He paced slowly, not dramatically, just measured. "I built this company on the belief that power is responsibility." He paused. "Some of you were afraid to speak." Heads lowered. "Some of you tried to speak and were ignored." Amara sat in the front row, hands clasped. Daniel continued, "And some of you participated in behavior that does not represent who we are meant to be." The room was silent. "I could fire half this building," he said calmly, "but fear does not create integrity." He looked around. "So here's what will." A new slide appeared behind him. Hale Integrity Charter. Effective immediately, every employee, from executive to intern, will complete ethics certification quarterly. Murmurs spread. All executive compensation will be publicly documented internally. More murmurs. Anonymous reporting channels will bypass management entirely and report directly to compliance. He looked toward Amara. And promotions will consider peer integrity evaluations. The room shifted. This wasn't cosmetic change. This was structural. Then Daniel did something no one expected. He stepped away from the podium. "I want to hear from you." Silence. Then an older warehouse supervisor stood up. "I've been here 22 years, he said. "We felt like numbers lately." Daniel nodded. "You're not." Another employee raised her hand. "I laughed when they mocked you." The room turned toward her. She swallowed. "I'm ashamed." Daniel looked at her without anger. "Why did you laugh?" She hesitated. "Because everyone else was." Daniel let that sit. "Culture," he said quietly, "is contagious." He stepped closer to the edge of the stage. "Each of you contributes to it." A young intern spoke next. "Are we safe now?" Daniel answered immediately. "Yes." Not loudly, but firmly. Applause began, slow at first, then building. Not forced, earned. After the town hall, Marcus approached. "Public approval ratings are soaring. Investors are stabilizing." Daniel nodded. "Good." Marcus studied him. "You could have crushed them." Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "Crushing people is easy." "Then why didn't you?" Daniel's eyes drifted briefly toward the lobby. "Because humiliation doesn't teach. It hardens." Meanwhile, Victor's legal battle intensified. He held a press conference of his own. Daniel staged everything, Victor insisted. He manipulated footage, but reporters pressed him. "What about the offshore accounts?" Victor deflected, accounting misunderstandings. His confidence was cracking. Behind the scenes, federal investigators uncovered more emails, encrypted messages, evidence that Victor had pressured managers to remove low-value clients, code for small investors and community housing tenants. The narrative shifted from corporate dispute to criminal conspiracy. Back at Hale Industries, something unexpected happened. Productivity rose. Employee satisfaction scores climbed. Departments that had competed aggressively began collaborating. Amara worked tirelessly, building the new compliance structure. One evening, she knocked on Daniel's office door. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside. "Sir, I need to ask something." He leaned back slightly. "Go ahead." "When they pushed you, weren't you angry?" Daniel considered the question. "Yes." She waited. "But anger is useful only if it's controlled." She nodded slowly. "I wanted to react," he admitted, "but if I had, they would have blamed temperament instead of truth." Her respect deepened. "Why did you really do it this way?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at her carefully. "My father once told me, if you want to know the heart of your kingdom, walk through it without a crown." The words lingered. 2 weeks later, the federal indictment dropped. Victor Hale was charged with fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction. Richard cooperated fully. News outlets exploded again. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted as Victor was escorted in handcuffs. Any comment on Daniel Hale's actions? Victor glared but said nothing. Back at the company, employees watched the live feed in silence. Thomas, the security guard, shook his head. "I almost lost my job for him," he muttered. The receptionist exhaled slowly. "We almost lost ourselves." Daniel stood in his office watching too. Marcus entered quietly. "It's over." Daniel didn't respond immediately. "No," he said finally. "It's beginning." Beginning of what? Accountability. That evening, Daniel visited the Hale Housing Foundation project personally. Families gathered outside when word spread. An elderly woman approached him cautiously. "Are you really the owner?" "Yes." She took his hand. "Thank you for not selling us." Emotion flickered across his face. "This was always yours." As he walked through the housing complex, children ran past him laughing. No suits, no boardrooms, no cameras, just people. Later that night, Daniel returned to the office alone. He walked into the lobby, stopped at the exact spot where he had been shoved. He looked at the floor for a moment, not with resentment, with reflection. Amara approached quietly. "You're thinking about that day?" "Yes." "Does it still bother you?" Daniel gave a small, honest nod. "But I'm grateful for it." She looked confused. "Because it revealed what was hidden." He turned toward her, and it revealed who was watching. She understood. In the weeks that followed, Hale Industries became a case study in ethical reform. Business schools requested interviews. Investors cited the company as a model for transparency. Employees felt pride again. One afternoon, Daniel gathered the staff once more. "This company almost lost its soul," he said plainly, "but it didn't." He looked around the room. "Because some of you still remembered what dignity looks like." Applause filled the hall. Daniel raised a hand gently. "One more thing." The room quieted. "Never measure someone by their appearance." He paused. "Because one day, the person you mock might be the one holding your future." The message landed deeply. As employees filtered out, Amara lingered. "You changed everything," she said. Daniel shook his head slightly. "No." He glanced around the building. "They did." He walked out through the front doors, not escorted, not hidden, just present. And this time, every employee in the lobby nodded respectfully as he passed. No fear, no forced smiles, just understanding. If this story moved you, take a second right now and hit that like button. Stories like this remind us that character still matters in a world obsessed with status. And comment below, would you have treated him differently if you thought he was broke? If you believe integrity always wins over arrogance, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this one. Because sometimes the greatest power isn't wealth, it's restraint. And sometimes the person you underestimate is the one who owns the room. The billionaire pretended to be broke until they humiliated the wrong man, and they never forgot it.